Alright. So that was some info on the gladiators. I'll show you some more information. Alright, this is called the Colosseum. Alright, the Colosseum. By Peter Quinnell and the editors of the Newsweek book division. On page 63 shows you the 2nd century bishop of Antioch was the first Christian to be martyred on the sands of the Flavian amphitheater. Flavian dynasty, meaning Vespasian, Titus, all those devils, man. You know, that built the Colosseum from money they got sacking Jerusalem. You know, and here's the bishop, a black man. All right, this is what these devils are doing, man. You know, this is what these damn devils, these crackers, was doing. You know. And in the scriptures it tells you that Paul fought with beasts at Ephesus. Matter of fact, I'm gonna bring that up just for edification's sake. I believe it's in 1st or 2nd Corinthians. I'm gonna find it real quick. Yeah, 1 Corinthians 15 and 32. It says, "If after the manner of men I have fought with beasts at Ephesus, what advantageth it me if the dead rise not? Let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we die." That's what them gladiators is all about, man. You know, let us eat and drink and die. You know, like if you watch Spartacus with those are Jakes, that's all. You know, that's what they were all about. They didn't believe. These gladiators, you know, they didn't believe in anything. You know, they're all about the sport. You know, so but that shows you that Paul, he was a gladiator. He had to fight beasts at Ephesus. A lot of Israelites had to do that, you know. But here's one right here, clearly a black man, you know. All right, and then in the Josephus, it tells you that it's like, I mean, not read this book yet, but in the Josephus it tells you that a lot of us are taken captives. I'll bring it out real quick, but first I want to bring something out again. This book, it's in the introduction. All right, it's called. It's like it says, the people of ancient Rome. The eloquent author of the following narrative reminds us were kept satisfied with a nearly endless succession of entertainments such as gladiatorial games and wild beast hunts. And for this purpose, in the 1st century AD, Vespasian and his 2 sons and 2 successors, the Flavian emperors, built the Colosseum, more accurately known as the Flavian Amphitheater. The arena also witnessed harrowing scenes of Christian martyrdom, and it is to those martyrs that the edifice is now dedicated. All right, so I'm gonna bring out the Josephus right about now. Okay, so this is the Josephus. You know, you brothers notice. Let's go to page 898. Which is it's going to tell you about the account, book 9. I mean, it's like a book 6, chapter 9, and the paragraph 3. It says, "Now the number of those that were carried captive during this whole war was collected to be 97,000, as was the number of those that perished during the whole siege, 1100,000. Alright, so the war is talking about the Jewish rebellion. During 70, really started at 66 AD, I believe, and it ended about like 73. You know. Let's go into this book now. Let's go into Septimius Severus. You know, that was just some info of how Jake was up in the Roman Empire, but now let's go how he took it over. This is called Dark History of the Roman Emperors, from Julius Caesar to the Fall of Rome, by Michael Kerrigan. Alright, page 185. Go over some history of what was happening. This is what they call it. 193, Rome's year of shame. You see what they call it? They say 193 AD is Rome's year of shame. Why do they call it Rome's year of shame? Because a black man took over. That's why they call it. That's when the head was wounded to death by Septimius Severus. Alright. Page 192. It says, page 192, 3 generals independently rose up with their troops against the new regime. Claudius Albinus was the governor of Britain, far to the east in Syria. Not just his own troops, but also those in Egypt and Asia Minor, had proclaimed Pessinnius Niger emperor. Niger means black, so this guy was a Jake, Pessinnius Niger. Alright? It says Septimius Severus had been born in Africa, in what is now Tunisia, and like Lucius Quintus, he was the son of a Berber chief. He had enlisted in the Roman army, though, and risen spectacularly through the ranks to his current post as commander in Pannonia, roughly modern Hungary. So it was that on June 1st, 193 AD, Septimius Severus was able to march into Rome with his army without meeting significant resistance. Tells you what happened. It says, acknowledged him as... the Senate missed one part. So the Senate acknowledged him as emperor. The helpless Julianus was arrested and beheaded. Now, Didius Julianus, what happened was Commodus was killed. Then you had Pertinax got up in there. Didius Julianus smoked him. And Didius Julianus basically paid off the Praetorian Guard. But no one really liked him. So what happened was that Septimius Severus rolled upon him and he killed him and beheaded him. He had been on the throne for just over 2 months, Didius Julianus. The new emperor showed the Praetorian Guard who was boss by abolishing it altogether and executing those who were thought to have led the conspiracy against Pertinax. Septimius Severus created his own elite guard, drawn from his loyal legions, to replace it. You know those are Jakes, man. Like the brothers Karatazar and Arya Ahmad, they were saying, you know, they're gonna get their cousins, their brothers, you know, their best friends. They're gonna get them up in the high ranks, man. So Septimius Severus, he created his own elite guard. He said, "To hell with you, corrupt ass Praetorian Guard. I'm gonna create my own elite guard." You know. It said the fighting was by no means over. Septimius Severus might have been recognized in Rome, but as far as the east was concerned, Pessinnius Niger was emperor. Claudius Albinus, meanwhile, controlled a vast segment of Western Europe, including not just Britain, but all of Iberia. Septimius Severus, who even awarded him the imperial title of Caesar, acknowledged his authority in those territories. It was understood that although the African might be emperor for now and for so long as he lived, Claudius Albinus would have the claim to his succession. The two agreed an alliance as Septimius Severus turned his attention to the east, marching his army out to engage the Eastern Emperor and his legions. They were at Cyzicus, northwest Turkey. Niger's army, now outnumbered, was forced to retreat. Much the same happened a few weeks later at Nicaea, a little further east. In 194 AD, however, Septimius Severus followed through, dealing his rival a crushing defeat at the Battle of Issus. Niger fled to the east, hoping to find sanctuary with Rome's Parthian enemies, but was caught and killed. His severed head was sent back to be exhibited outside the walls of Byzantium. The city had sided with Niger in the recent fighting and still remained defiant. Severus displayed Niagara's head as a warning to its occupants of the fate awaiting them. It says, unfazed, they prepared to resist, and Septimius Severus' army settled down for a siege. It was not going to be easy, they knew. Byzantium's situation was superb from the defensive point of view. It was high up on a headland around which fast currents create constant turbulence. Its ports were walled, their entrances controlled by boom chains which could be raised or lowered to admit shipping or to keep it out. Long breakwaters extended out into the sea on either side, on which archers could easily be positioned so that any hostile ships approaching would have to run the gauntlet. The city's fortifications, massive walls with high protruding towers, were said to be the most formidable in the ancient world. Archers standing on these could cover the walls and ramparts at will, showering arrows down upon attackers. At intervals along the walls, moreover, were engines of every kind, including catapults and ballistae. Defenders could lob huge boulders or wooden beams at their attackers or send heavy bolts hurtling towards them, and often these would be tipped with blazing fire. Ships incautious enough to approach the walls were liable to find themselves hooked like fishes, because hooks were abruptly lowered by pulley systems so that vessels could be yanked out of the water. The Byzantines' own naval strength was considerable. They possessed 500 galleys with hardened bows for ramming the enemy. Many of them had rudders both fore and aft to maximize movement at close quarters. The Byzantines used guerrilla tactics too, sending divers down under cover of darkness. They would dive bolts into the sides of Roman ships and attach long cables. Then, cutting the anchor's chains, they would signal to their comrades on the walls. Again, like anglers, they would reel in their catchers. In short, between the strength of all its various ways, out, they hurled stone sculptures and bronze statues and other things instead. They repaired their increasingly tatty ships with timbers torn from houses. They even replaced frayed ropes with new ones braided from their women's hairs. Alright? And here's an image of Septimius Severus, a black man. Alright? They whitewashed his son, Caracalla. Alright? But here's a black man. You can't tell me that this is a damn cracker. Alright? And then here's a sculpture which they busted this up, man. You know? Because you see the dark pigment. This was the dark pigment on him.